You say slow down. I don't like to.
Winning the away game, that is the name of the show. And how fortunate are we to have one of the hosts, the creator, right? The creator, Justinus Adriaanse. So happy to have you here. Thank you for joining us on this episode right here on URF TV.
Thanks, Stacy. Looking forward to it, and always enjoy talking rugby, and especially Springbok rugby. So any chance I get, I'll be there.
Absolutely. Let's talk more about that because Springbok rugby is the through line to every one of your shows. Tell us about how that originated and why that's important to you. Clearly, as a fan of the game, clearly that's your favorite team.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in apartheid South Africa in the 80s and 90s, and from a very early age, rugby was sort of part of our routine. Actually, what happened is when I was about 5 years old, my mom made me promise her that I will never play rugby because she was afraid of it being a contact sport. And I sort of kept that promise up to a point. And then one day I actually just sent her a note back home saying, "I'm so sorry, Mom, but I'm going to stay after school and I'm going to start playing rugby." And from that day on, I've never looked back. Rugby was just such an integral part. I mean, our normal routine growing up is my dad had 5 season tickets on the 22 line at Loftus on the main pavilion. So every Saturday morning would start by us playing rugby at school, then going to Loftus to watch the Bulls play, then driving home and watching the game again on a VHS recording. So rugby's always been part of it. At that stage, obviously, South Africa wasn't playing a lot of international rugby, but from the first test, we came back against the All Blacks in 1992 at Ellis Park. I've been absolutely obsessed with the Boks, and then obviously that 1995 was such a unique, not just a rugby, but a cultural experience. No, I say it was such a cultural experience um, in South Africa because, I mean, up to that point, rugby was really a symbol of sort of the apartheid regime, and the fact that Nelson Mandela embraced it the way he did, and then used rugby as a means of getting the country to unite was and I mean, I was a 17-year-old at the time, and watching this all play out was just phenomenal.
Mm. Take me back to that time. I I wasn't ready for that pivot in your voice, in your heart, but I love it and I want to stay with that for a moment. Take me back to that 17-year-old boy who loved the sport so much, who didn't defy, I'm not going to say you defied mom, but you challenged her with your choice to see an icon like Nelson Mandela use his voice to step forward on the back of this beautiful game. Take me back to that time.
I don't know if you've ever seen Invictus,
I
the movie
have loved it.
about with Morgan Freeman and Matt Damon. And I think for me, the context growing up in apartheid South Africa, I was very rarely exposed to anything outside my bubble, and my bubble was Afrikaans and my bubble was white. So the first exposure, I mean, we had the referendum in was it 90 or 91? Nelson Mandela was released. And all of this change was happening around us, which was like a fundamental, like tectonic shift in the country. But I was young and I didn't really take much of it in. So my first real exposure to the new South Africa was really the 95 World Cup. Is Here's Nelson Mandela, the first new democratically elected president of the country, against all odds, embracing the sport that was the sport of the oppressor for decades. And I think over time, at the time, it was for me just about the rugby and the Springboks winning. But then on the day when it all happens, it started opening my mind to this bigger world out there, and some of the challenges that the country has. And I mean, the country still has obviously a lot of challenges today 30 years later. But I think for me, my personal journey started then, and being more inquisitive about it and learning more from it. And like, I don't know if you've ever read The Long Walk to Freedom, especially if you listen to the audiobook, they have some snippets in there, for instance, of Nelson Mandela talking during the Rivonia trial and addressing the court. Um, when they were busy with the sentencing. And to imagine that person going to jail for 30 years and then coming out the other side ready to put all of that behind him and making strategic decisions on things that he otherwise probably wouldn't have done so that he can achieve the end goal he's working towards. It's just been such an amazing education.
Mm. And you're still impacted by it today.
Yeah, I think rugby for me is such a fundamental emotional connection to South Africa that it's very hard to sort of separate it. And I mean, I've lived abroad now permanently for 10 years, and I would say that connection has just grown stronger as a result of not being in South Africa.
Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for, your heart clearly comes out when you share that story. Thank you. A lot of people are going to be touched by this. So you mentioned living abroad, living in Canada as a South African. How many more Springbok fans have you gathered while living in Canada?
Oh no, I work on it all the time. I mean, it's the benefit of the last 10 years is we've been world champions for quite a substantial portion of that. So it's been relatively easy to expose people to the game and convince them to be Springbok supporters. So I would say it's work in progress, and I haven't done enough, but I'm aiming to do more and convert especially more Canadians over to rugby and then get them to have the Springboks as their second team after Canada.
That's awesome. When you look at rugby as a whole, if I were to give you the title of decision maker for the day over all of rugby, what are some things you would change to make this sport grow even quicker?
Wow.
Just one day.
Just one day.
But you get to make all the decisions. Doesn't matter where we start, where it is. It could be from grassroots up to pro, whatever you want it to be.
Oh, I think rugby was an amateur sport for so long. And part of the hangover we have today, 30 years after the sport turned professional, is that transition involved a lot of compromises and a lot of decisions that potentially hampers the game still 30 years later. So, I mean, if I was all powerful and could make decisions, I would try and get the right people in the room and try and start designing rugby's future from scratch first. And then only once you've really designed the future in great detail of how to optimize for the most global and impactful game, would I go back and see how do we transition from where we are now to get there? Because I think, as I say, the transition to a professional game was very slow for a long time and then very quick, and it definitely introduced. And I think in every country it seems to have evolved a little differently, but I'm not sure that the current structures always completely serves the future of the game, and because it serves the past, right? Because rugby was an amateur game for a long time. So if I had to optimize, I would optimize for the future and potentially start with a clean sheet of paper, first design the perfect future, and then try and figure out how to transition from where we are to that future.
Where do you start with that? I mean, that sounds, it's a beautiful plan, and to start from scratch, as you say, what would make the future extra bright and make the road even clearer in your mind?
I don't know. I think it's complicated because part of so obviously living in North America now, I've been exposed to a lot of the North American sports and how they operate and commercially, especially obviously the NFL, they've been so successful. I mean, the
Hmm.
NFL is this absolutely enormous beast. Um, and then when you look at it and you say, okay, well, what can we learn from it, and how can we translate it to rugby? It's also challenging because in rugby, this idea of nations playing each other brings a completely different perspective than just clubs in private ownership playing each other. So that brings a constraint. So I mean, I do think that and the balance between being more commercially minded and not ignoring the historical support base of rugby is also a very challenging, because every time you make commercially based decisions, you face a lot of blowback. I mean, for example, the Boks and the All Blacks playing in Baltimore, for me, I thought that was amazing because obviously I'm so excited to go there, because I haven't been to a Bok Test match in North America since we've lived here, and all of the other South Africans I'm talking to that lives in North America are very excited. But it's also faced a lot of criticism, especially in New Zealand and in South Africa and a few other places. So it's that transition and that split between the two isn't easy. Um, but I think doing more things like that to grow the game is definitely a step in the right direction, even though you have to manage the buy-in from the traditional base very, very delicately.
I'm excited that you brought that up. That was just announced last week. It's the fourth test, and it will be in Baltimore, Maryland, as you mentioned, the Springboks and the All Blacks. I'm so excited. I cannot wait to see those two teams live in person in the US. And people that do not know what they're missing, don't miss it. Tickets are on sale now. Make sure you get out there and do it. So I want to talk to you. I'm going to take a bit of a left turn. Um, I hear that Nando's is kind of important to you. And by the way,
Oh yeah.
I'm going to draw a connection here, I promise. Why? And what is Nando's for those that don't know?
So Nando's is a Portuguese style chicken restaurant chain that started in South Africa, by a guy called Robbie Brosen, who's grown dramatically. They in 32 countries now, very big in Australia, New Zealand, the UK, Ireland, and recently have been working hard to expand in the US. I think they're in 5 or 6 of the big US cities now. And it's funny because for a very long time, even when we still lived in South Africa, we used to have Nando's once a week, for just for dinner. But when we moved to Canada and we found it here, it sort of became also part of that connection back to South Africa, that connection of like South Africans being successful, like winning the away game. Like it's a South
Mm.
African business that's really won the away game, and the international business is now bigger than the South African business. So yes, it's wonderful chicken. You can buy the sauces in many countries, even if the restaurants isn't there in most grocery stores. So for me, it's just such a strong and emotional connection back to South Africa, and I absolutely love the food, love the hot sauce, love the chicken, and just try and go as often as I can. And I've probably converted more Canadians to Nando's than to the Springboks. So it's work in progress.
Well, that's a very close second. They'll love the box very, very soon. Well, just so you know, I want you to know I did some work and I made an effort. I've mapped two Nando's locations. If you decide to come to Maryland in September, they're both within a 25 to 30-minute drive of Baltimore, just so you know.
Oh, I'll be there for sure, no doubt.
Excellent. Excuse me. When we think about one of the reasons URF exists is because it's about the fan. We're all fans of the game, whether we play it now, whether we used to play, whether we're retired, we're all fans of the game, or we have our favorite players or coaches. In what ways do you see fans really impacting the sport?
I think the fans drive so much of the behavior, both of the players and the administrators, that we have to. Um, I mean, my one gripe with fans generally is in rugby we work very hard to create this culture among the players, not to respect the officials and to work to respect their decisions and work with them well. And then obviously sometimes, especially usually when your team loses, people often feel the need to attack the officiating dramatically. And I mean, there's obviously challenges with it. It's a complicated, evolving game, fast paced. So it's not an easy job, but I think fans impact the game dramatically. They spread both the good and the bad part of it, and part of the bad part that we can definitely work on doing better on is the way we treat the officials and opposing players, especially, and respect the game as much as the victory.
I could not agree more. And I've always been so disappointed in fans after, I don't know if this ever happened in South Africa or other nations, but when I look at Americans, if their team wins the championship, they'll destroy their own city. They turn over cars, they set fire. I will never understand that. Why are you destroying your own city? There are other ways to celebrate.
Unfortunately, I haven't seen that happen in rugby yet, so hopefully
Oh,
we can
hopefully
stay
we
that
never
way.
will.
But yeah. Well, personally, I hope for many more celebrations of the World Cups. Like my dream, one of the dreams I think as South Africans we want to make a reality is if we could really give each and every kid in South Africa the same opportunities to play rugby and develop that I had growing up in the 80s and 90s. I think we have the potential to win 5 of the next 10 World Cups. So I want to do whatever I can to try and make that a reality, try and make sure we give every 12-year-old boy and girl in South Africa the same opportunities to be exposed, involved, and learn from rugby. Because I think it creates so many long-term benefits for the individuals, the community, the region, and the country. Because when we teach those values and characteristics to people in a team environment and everything that comes with rugby, they end up being much better at what they end up being. Only 0.01% end up becoming professional rugby players, but the others become counselors and doctors and dentists and many other professions. And all of those things they can execute better because of the lessons and opportunities they had in rugby. And if we do that successfully in South Africa, we can build a country that works for everybody, and hopefully we can win 5 of the next 10 World Cups.
See, you should be the leader of rugby for a day. You've got a lot of amazing ideas. What would that look like to give kids, boys and girls, more opportunities? Where is the mark missed that they're not getting these opportunities that you mentioned?
Well, I don't know if you've ever read, if you know Siya Kolisi, he's the South African captain. And Sia's got an amazing story. In his book, he talks about growing up in a township in South Africa and playing for a club. And in this club team, he was 12 years old, but he was playing with everybody from other teenagers to 40-year-old men. And he would describe the scene of them being on the pitch, him playing basically in his pajama shorts because he doesn't have other clothes and playing bare feet, but that some of the other players would be wearing rugby boots, etc. And he paints this whole picture. And I read the book and it was amazing to me because I had never been exposed to that. And then about 6 months later, I ended up flying to South Africa to go and visit the Eastern Cape to really see what rugby is like there. I went to a big inter-school day between 2 big high schools, which was fantastic to see. But then the Sunday morning, we ended up being in a small rural town in the Eastern Cape. And the guy I was with said to me, why don't we just drive to the town next door, which is about an hour away. He wanted to go and see the Craven Week, which is like the provincial team for that region practice there. And I said, no, let's do it. And we drove. And this was like 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning, on a random Sunday morning, driving in very rural area in the Eastern Cape. And as we approached this very small town, there was an informal settlement of probably about 3,000 people, and the town itself was probably not even 1,000 people. And as we approached this town, there was this rugby field that wasn't perfectly maintained, but it was functional next to the field. And the guy I was with said to me, after we're done, would I mind if we just stop at this rugby field, because he would like to take a picture. When he retires one day, he wants to make a book of all the different rugby fields he visited in South Africa. And I said, no problem. So we go to this practice, and on the way back, we sort of have to drive a little bit through the informal settlement to get to this rugby field. And as we approach, there was a concrete wall between us and the field, so we couldn't see the field. And we come around this corner, and it feels like I'm driving into Kolisi's book. So this is a random field in an informal settlement at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and here's this game taking place. And it's everything from a 12-year-old boy playing till a 40-year-old man. Half of them are wearing shoes, and half of them have no shoes. And we stop, and we get out, and we start talking to the crowd, because there's like 300-400 people in the crowd next to the field. And they say, no, this informal settlement of about 3,000 people have 13 different rugby clubs. 6 games will take place on this field today, and all of the town is there and just participating. So when I think about really giving the same opportunities to kids all over South Africa as I had, is that, I mean, the outcome eventually should be that games like that, those kids can play in organized leagues, have the facilities they need, have a properly maintained field, have the equipment they need, have proper coaching, and they all have the ability to learn the lessons rugby can teach us that prepare us from life, and that the percentage of them that really can excel at rugby will get the successive opportunities to develop that as much as they possibly can.
I hope to see that as well. That sounds like a world that I want to see and be part of. It's a great plan, and I hope that it comes to fruition everywhere in the world, because sport is such a place for growth. It is a place where we get empowered, self-empowered, and also get to know what it looks like to be a real teammate. So I would love to see that, especially for our youth. You know, there's enough challenges in the world. It would be extra special to have that outlet for them. I know sports really saved my life, and I would love to see that happen in more lives as well. I want to, right? I want to switch gears again on you. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, because I know you love your Springboks. So I'm going to give you a little quiz. Let's see how well you know your Springboks.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so you talked a little bit earlier about how terrific they've been in the recent years with Rugby World Cup victories and back-to-back championship titles in 24 and 25. It's just been incredible. They've been called the Dream Team, which I can see why. And in 2025, which Springbok, this is an easy one, which Springbok was named Player of the Year?
Oh, Malcolm Marx.
Boom, you got it. And they did so well in 2025. I want people to know or be reminded of, with key injuries, they still got things done in a powerful way with key injuries throughout the season. How many Springboks were featured on the top 100 players list?
So let's say there's probably 45 people in the squad. If the list was made by the Northern Hemisphere, I would say 15.
Oh, you're so close. 17, which is more than any other nation. So that is very, very cool. Also speaks to the remarkable, the remarkable depth. What is the Springboks' largest winning streak? And this is ever.
I was there.
Oh?
I was there in London when they lost against England to extend it. I think it was 17, and we were going for 18, if I remember correctly.
17, baby. Yes, between August 1997 and September 1998. 17 consecutive test matches. I'm so sorry you had your heart broken on the 18th.
That's okay. It's okay. I you know what? I was at Loftus. I was 12-year-old. And I was at Loftus in 1990 when the Sharks won their first Currie Cup, and I cried most of the way home.
Oh.
But what I realized and learned then, and specifically then again in 2007 when the Bulls won in the last minute against the Sharks, this time in Durban, it's just, obviously it's more fun to win, but it's the experience of being there and seeing your team play, and sometimes you'll win and sometimes you'll lose. now looking back, both of those are like exceptional memories for me. And the one time we won and the one time we lost. So, like, I mean, I remember being at Twickenham that day and us losing, but I remember that, and I would have remembered it if we won as well. So yeah, it's more fun winning, but it's the most important thing is to show, be there, and be part of it.
That's right. And no matter win or lose, it all builds character in the end, for sure.
Yep.
2 more questions. Who was the most frequent sub in Springbok history?
Oh, it used to be Ollie Leroux for a long time, but I would assume that might have been overtaken by now. Either Ollie Leroux or Bobby Skinstad.
What's your gut tell you?
Let's go with Ollie Leroux.
Yeah, you're correct. Okay, this one might be the hardest one. You're killing it so far. Okay, who was the youngest ever Springbok player? Youngest? Nope. I'm taking you way, way, way back here.
Youngest ever Springbok. Maybe.
I'll give you
before. Yeah, give me a year. What year was it?
1891.
Oh, wow. No.
It was, you were killing it. I told you that was the hardest one. It was Jack Hartley. He was 18 years and 18 days old.
Wow.
Very, very cool.
And one
very,
how
very
old
cool.
Nas was when he made his debut. I think he was pretty close.
That's awesome. While you're looking that up, I want to remind fans and also invite you, Justinus, that URF or urfans.org is free to register for, and we would love to have you. I call it family. Everybody in rugby, I call my family, so we would love to have all of our guests and all of our friends of the show join us and register. It's for free at urfans.org. All right, we are just about out of time, but I just want to thank you so much for the beautiful work that you do for the sport of rugby. You're getting a message out. I know that we all want things to build quickly and seamlessly, and you're doing that one day and one person at a time. And I love that for you. And we here at URF support everything that you're doing, and whatever we can continue to do is support. We would love to do that. And for now, I'm going to just say thank you again for being with us. And it's just been such a joy.
Thank you very much. It was really a pleasure. And thanks for the work you guys are doing at United Rugby Fans. I think the sport has got so much potential and has such an impact, or at least it had such a fundamental impact on my life. And I think it can add value to a lot of people.
Absolutely. And here at URF, we say fans first.
Rugby forever.
Yeah. Thank you so, so much. Great to meet you.
Awesome. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it, man.
My pleasure.